So Article 2, escrow. This is immediately where you're going to see we've changed the structure of the document. So the first page and a half, Article 1, are all the data inputs, the different variables of material terms that you typically negotiate between a buyer and seller and input in the system. Section 2, and the execution of the document too, with the effective date in Section 1. What happens immediately after you execute a document? You pay the escrow. So you see immediately we're trying to set up the contract flow so it's going to flow in the chronology of a normal real estate deal. So again, we've identified the escrow holder here instead of the broker, and the law provides, and this contract provides, that escrow has to be deposited without unreasonable delay into the escrow account of the buyer's broker if no escrow holder is identified. So again, a default term. You don't identify escrow holder in Section 1, the buyer's broker is automatically the escrow holder under this section. Also important, KRS 324-111. Does everybody know what this is? All the brokers, you'll know what 324-111 is? Anybody not know what that is? Or you're not gonna raise your hand anyway, probably. So this is the section that lets you all get out of jail when you have escrow money that you don't know what to do with. What we're now doing in this section, and later on you're going to see, is we're adding 324-111 as a contractual term to the parties. So the great thing about 324-111 is it allows you as a broker who's holding earnest money deposit to figure out what to do with it when the parties are in a fight. And it says you send notice to the parties, you give them 60 days. At the end of 60 days, whoever you say you're going to send the earnest money to, you're going to send it to unless they either reach an agreement, a court tells you what to do, or somebody files a lawsuit. That's what happens. It's pretty simple. But that statute is only applicable to the buyer's broker. A buyer and a seller are not subject to that statute. The earnest money is subject to it, but not the buyer and seller. What we are doing here as a matter of contract is making sure that buyers and sellers have notice that when they get mad at you for sending that letter or that you're not releasing the escrow money, you're saying, hey, the contract says 324-111 now, that is intended to add protections for you. And you'll see throughout this in a number of places, we have tried to add those things that inherently you should have already, but try to protect brokers and agents in the process. This is one of those first ones we see. And we're going to talk about it later on about termination and breach and how 324 comes back into play in releasing that money. The last sentence of this is also real important. The escrow holder or buyer's agent, because we're acknowledging that, I mean, let's be honest, is the buyer's broker, and as a broker, are you really going to notify the other party that you receive the escrow? No, you have too much else on the plate, but your agent can. That's who needs to be the person doing it, or the escrow holder. So if Ann Marsh and Land Title is holding it, they can notify him too. But the goal here is this: the seller is getting notification in writing that the deposit has actually been paid and confirmed. The current contract doesn't require that. There's no notification required, and sometimes it's not given. And frankly, this is one of those weird things that you're not obligated to give it under the current contract because you're not required to. You should, but you're not required to. So it's a cleanup item that is intended to help in the practice, and it's also important because if they don't pay the deposit, there's still a binding contract, okay, because they've already signed a contract. Contract is an offer, acceptance, has mutuality, and it has consideration. All those things are there. Paying the escrow is one of the agreements of that. It has to be paid within 3 days. If it's not, there's a remedy section that the seller can give notice to the buyer. You breached the contract and I'm terminating, or I'm giving you 5 days to pay it in. So there's some remedies available later on for it. So it's a difference in what we have now.